All right. Anyway, welcome. Welcome to the bottom bunk.
Welcome to the bottom bunk.
And you saying that like you really don't want to be here.
Really? I don't know how I'm feeling today.
Um, I'm sorry.
I was like so mad prepared yesterday.
I was not.
Fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
was not ready. She was not ready, y'all.
She
I
was
mean, I'm also not ready today, but like I'm prepared to try to sound prepared. You know what I
that's
mean?
wild. Does that mean it's all on me today?
No, it's not all on you.
Oh,
It's not,
okay.
it's never all on you.
I'm joking.
I'm just saying, like, even though my head's not in it, like my head wants my head to be in it. You know what I'm saying?
I just feel like you're such an integral part of the conversation. Like I feel like you're more of a question person and I'm more of a like random thought person. So like we need each other to be a conversation,
No,
you
for
know?
real. And I'm like on the questions today. Like I'm just question genic naturally. So
Question genic. Let's try that one again.
I stand
That's
by it.
good. Okay.
Stand by.
Then let's keep go. Let's charge right ahead. I feel like low key the reason we're not in it is because neither of us wanted to do this. We were both
Us
like,
literally
topic
like
is important, but no.
literally like groaning at the thought of recording this
Uh,
topic.
literally. This might be the second or third time we
Not
tried
a third.
this.
I don't think we would go after it if we had to go a third time. That's wild. I think after three, you just gotta let it go.
Well, this will be the last try.
Let's
There you
make
go.
it a good one.
Today we're talking about women in ministry. The idea of women being lead pastors and women like in any type of office, basically. I feel like it's two separate questions, right?
Well,
Should women
yes.
teach men and should women be like could a woman be a pastor over a women's church?
Yeah. I feel like we should look at Genesis just because that scripture that Paul is talking about, he refers to Genesis when he makes his claim
Okay,
why women should
you're
be lead.
right.
Said the woman led the man astray, and so we don't listen to women anymore. That was his argument.
Yeah, I feel like we've really like talked about this verse ad nauseum, but that's okay. Let's do it again.
Oh,
Um,
for real?
not
When?
like not Genesis, but like the Second Timothy thing. I feel like I'm over it, low key. But
Wait, are we in Second Timothy? I'm
no,
not there.
you just mentioned Paul's verse. Isn't that the one in Second Timothy 11?
Hold on, I don't even know that scripture. I was just talking.
You're talking about the one where Paul's like, I don't
Wait,
love
there
you.
is no Second Timothy 11.
I'm sorry. First Timothy 2:11. Maybe that
Oh.
wait. There is a second Timothy. Why are you gaslighting me?
No,
Oh,
there's
there's
no,
no second Timothy
there's no
11.
Second Timothy chapter 11.
It's okay.
Okay, no, it's First Timothy chapter 2, verse 11.
I knew it was something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna read the whole thing. Verse 8, sorry, not the whole thing. I desire then that in every place the men should pray, lifting holy hands without anger or quarreling. Likewise, also that women should adorn themselves in respectable apparel, which is debatable, with modesty and self-control, not with braided hair and gold or pearls or costly attire. No costly attire, but with what is proper for women who profess godliness with good works. This scripture is the reason I feel bad wearing my Jordans to church. Anyway,
Maybe you should. Who wears sneakers at church?
I do so often.
Me too. Well, no, I'm wearing boots recently, but anyway, continue. Get to the point.
Let a woman learn quietly with all submissiveness. I do not permit a woman to teach or to exercise authority over a man. Rather, she is to remain quiet. For Adam was formed first, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman, yes, he was, but the woman was deceived and became a transgressor. Yet she will be saved through childbearing, if they continue in faith and love and holiness, self-control. Okay, I finally get that verse. The last one. You remember
Okay.
last time we talked about that verse and you were like, what does
It's
that mean?
dumb
Like
to
in
be safe in
childbearing?
childbearing. Yeah.
Yes, I realized
Okay, explain it to me.
the seed.
Uh-huh.
Seed that God was like, your seed will crush his heel.
Right.
That's what saves the woman. It was through the woman that
Man was
um,
deceived.
man was deceived, but it was also through the woman that man was saved.
Yep.
So she redeemed
What a
herself.
beautiful plot
But
twist.
Jesus redeemed her.
Right.
Jesus is the reason the woman was redeemed. But anyway,
I,
Adam was also deceived, is my point.
but I don't think he was.
He ate the fruit. It wasn't
Right, but
because,
he didn't eat it because he was deceived. He ate it because he wanted to.
oh, I feel
I
like
mean,
that's
she didn't lie to
worse.
him. She didn't say like this fruit doesn't actually do anything. Like she didn't actually lie to him.
Just didn't care.
No, literally.
I feel like that's worse.
It most definitely sort of is. So this entire verse made me think of Esther, because last time we talked about Esther and high key,
It didn't make you think about Esther.
just the whole thing about Esther was like she was super submissive, right? And like gentle or whatever. And this guy's like let women learn in silence all submission and don't permit women to teach or have authority over men. But Esther was the queen, high key, even though she was like submissive and stuff. She still had authority over men because sis was the queen. Like that's just how that works. But there was still a man over her, you know what I mean? And so like this is my whole thought process on the subject, which is why I feel like high key we can pack it up unless you disagree, and then we can talk about it. But high key, I feel like at the end of the day, like there are systems in place still. So however you feel God is leading you, He's not gonna call you outside of a system that He made. That just doesn't make sense unless He will, in which case, He'll do that. But I feel like if you're following the systems that are in place, and if you feel like they're oppressing you, and if God doesn't want them to do that, then He'll make a way for you to not be oppressed by those systems. And
Okay.
if that's not the case, then that's not the case.
Okay. I think I agree with you. I'm just not sure exactly like what you mean. Like, who's the oppressed one?
I guess women, like
Okay.
women that feel like they're being oppressed by the fact that they can't be over a man.
Okay. And then the systems that are in place, what are you referring to there? Are you talking about church?
So this is just a thought because I don't know if this is specifically outlined in the Bible, but in a lot of culture and a lot of texts, and I think in the Bible too, but I can't point to a specific text, most systems are modeled after the family system, right? Where there's a father and a mother, and then some sons and daughters. And we
So,
do that with like the queen mother and stuff like that. So if everything is modeled after the family, and God has gave us the family system where there's a man as the head, then why would he then go against that? Even in his church, which is supposed to be like a perfect replica of the system. Like, you know what I mean? To me, that just says like church should mirror the household,
mhm.
and I feel like that's a really common theme throughout the Bible. So,
It's God's house. And
right,
God's house, but also like the church is God's house. I think.
right. So he's the head, yes, but because he needs to act through people and because I don't know, to me it just seems like there should be parallels. So it makes sense to me why you wouldn't let a woman be a senior pastor, whether it's right or not. It just makes sense to me.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I think verse 12. Okay, first of all, I don't know how other translations do it, but the ESV
ew,
has it phrased.
ESV.
I don't use ESV, but that's where my Bible app is right now for some reason.
Yikes.
But
I'm messing with you.
no version shaming. Um, verse 12. I pay attention to the punctuation, maybe a
Mm.
little should, but the phrasing of it seems to be like it says, I do not permit a woman to teach or to exercise authority over a man. I don't think teaching is the same as exercising authority. I don't think he's like paralleling those. I think there's a difference between teaching a man and exercising authority over a man. That's just what I think, though. And I think a lot of people like interchange the two, at least from what I've heard and noticed, with like, especially men who are like strong about like women shouldn't be in the pulpit because just because a woman is in the pulpit does not mean that she's automatically exercising authority over you.
That's a good point. So you think the sentence is saying, I don't permit women to teach or have authority, like to teach a man or have authority over a
No, I
man? No.
think that's not, I think a lot of people think that's what it's saying, but I think,
You think he doesn't permit women to teach, regardless of whether it's over a man or not, and that he
yes,
doesn't. Okay.
I think that's what it's saying. But I think people, hold on, is that what I think it's saying? Hold on.
That just doesn't sound better.
It doesn't sound better, but hold on. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think he doesn't allow women to teach and he doesn't allow women to exercise authority over a man. And the only reason I make that point is because I think people confuse the two. I think they use them interchangeably. That's fine if he doesn't permit a woman to teach, but I don't think he was saying that as like a Timothy, make sure you don't let any woman teach. Like, I don't think that's what that was. I think Paul
Yeah.
is very clear when he's speaking for God and when he's not. And like, I
I
think this
mean,
is
very clear is a very strong way of saying it, but there is some distinction.
there.
There could be
Okay,
more.
you're right. You're right. There could be more distinct, but there are certain times when Paul's like, oh, this is, don't do this, or this is obviously from God, or like, blah, 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 blah. But in here, he says, I do not. Like, this is what I do. But
Yeah.
before that, he contrasts with like, this is what you should do, is what
Yeah.
they should not do. And then he doesn't say that after that.
That's a very good point. And I feel like at that we should never talk about this verse again.
Okay.
I'm joking. It just like mm.
I think it's an important verse because
No,
I
yeah,
think
it's important to
I think it
understand.
shows that like every church needs something different, and that's okay. Every community needs something different, and that's okay. I just think it's no use like arguing over something like, should a woman teach?
Yeah.
What about the verse that says there is no Jew or Gentile or male or female or
Hmm.
one?
Yeah.
So on that note, question. Okay, so I personally, as a woman, have no desire to like teach a man anything. I don't like not in a weird way, like I don't want to talk to a man, but I just have no like desire to do that. Like I'm not a man. I don't want to do that. But I'm just curious to know like what your thoughts about not even just being in ministry, but like teaching men because I thought about Pastor T.D. Jakes and how he ran a women's ministry for years. Like I could never do that for a man. I
And
just thought
nobody
that was
said
so weird.
nothing.
They just let
Everybody,
this man do it. They let him write a book for women, "Woman Thou Art Loosed," and he just. I mean, it must have been a good book. I didn't read it, but it
oh my,
must have been good because they let him do a whole women's ministry based off of it. I could never do something like that, nor do I want to do something like that for men. Like if I'm teaching and there happens to be men in the audience, like cool, fine, whatever. But I'm not gonna like talk to men
mm.
specifically. And
Yeah, during one of these episodes, we were talking about how like people read the Bible with the colors of their experience. And so, like, of course, if you're teaching the Bible, the things that you notice would relate to people who are like you or who have had similar experiences to you. And my experiences happen to be more similar with women, especially with the point that I'm at now in my life. Personally, I have no desire to teach men. Like, everything I do so far, it naturally like anchors itself towards like women's ministry, like what we're doing now. Like we didn't set out for it to be like women's ministry, but it has turned out that way and like I'm okay with that. And even like our Bible study, like we never excluded men, but we're building a community of women and like I feel like that's super important.
it really is. I'm so glad we're doing that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of my thing is I feel like there are some people who are like, I just really want to pastor, or I feel like God is calling me to pastor. But if God is calling you to pastor, he'll make that way for you. He wouldn't call you to that and then like not give you that. God wouldn't call you to something that is impossible. So why would he put you in a situation where like they don't let women preach unless A, you're there to change a culture, or B, you're just there for a moment and you might not come to preach at that church ever. You might preach at your own church, like, or whatever it is. So,
Yeah. Yeah, God is not gonna tell you to go somewhere and then not let you go.
yeah. But I
Yeah.
think what the guy was saying was really interesting about how people can have talent and gifts in positions that they can't hold. Like that makes a ton of sense to me. And you said that was stupid. And so now I
No,
have
no, no, no. I didn't say it was stupid. Those weren't my words. I didn't say it was stupid.
you. Mm,
I
okay.
didn't say it was stupid.
Okay.
It was just I was expressing that I didn't really understand because I had watched it and I wasn't sure how you could get that from whatever you told me. I'm not sure. I don't remember the conversation.
So we were talking about Torrey Roberts' Modern Church, specifically the one he did called Modern Apostles. And he was talking about how there are talents and gifts you can have for a certain area, even if you don't have a role in that area. Like how we were talking about like, and you were like, oh, like she has wisdom and like things like she needs to be like helping women and like she does, but not as like a mother of the church, right?
Mhm.
And even though she could like do that as a mother of the church, and that would be like in line with that, she can also do that elsewhere. And so he was talking about in the context of like influencers, and he was like, those people are gifted with evangelist talents. Like if they were in the church, they would be evangelists. And like that makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Right. So it could totally be the same with pastors, and that's what the guy in the YouTube video was saying. He was saying like women can totally like preach better than men. Women can totally care for like a whole flock of people as they should because they're nurturers. And like that can be the case, but that doesn't mean they have to be senior pastor. They could just be first lady. That doesn't have to mean that they do less work or that they're not as important or anything like that.
Um,
You see, now you're like,
see, that's a
no.
little different because, okay, to say that someone who's an influencer would be an evangelist in the church is a little different from saying that someone with all the makings to be a pastor in the church should be a first lady.
I didn't say she should be a first lady. I said
I
she
know what she
could.
said. I'm
She
just
could also
making
be a
a
minister.
parallel.
It was just one example. I was just thinking of like the highest. I
I
guess she
know, but
could elder.
I just feel like I'm not saying everyone who has the qualities to be a pastor should be a pastor. I'm just saying it wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing if they were.
Yeah.
I just feel like it doesn't make sense to say, okay, this person has all the qualifications to be a pastor. It's just she's a girl.
But
Like,
it's not that she's just a girl though.
what?
But I feel like when you say she's just a girl, you're making it about gender, but it's not. It's about roles. It's about the feminine role, not about her gender. Like I feel like when you say it's just because she's a girl, you make it about breasts and like vaginas and stuff, but like it's literally about the role. I mean, maybe that's not how you meant it, but I feel like that's how.
But it is about gender because
But it's not though.
that's what we're talking about. We're talking about
I mean,
women.
gender is how we define the roles, yes, but the role is still the role. I don't know.
Okay,
I feel like when you simplify it into biological terms, I feel like it takes away from the fact that like
I wasn't talking biologically at
I
all.
know that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like never mind, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying that
Just say what you're saying. I don't.
no, because it doesn't, I mean, that's all I was saying. I know you weren't saying that. I'm just saying that's how it sounds when you say like, oh, but she's just a girl. Like because of the context
Because
that
that's
we
how
use
people
just a girl.
think.
Right. Because that's how people think. But that's not the way God's thinking when he created the systems. So I feel like we
I'm not
should
saying there shouldn't be systems.
I
I'm
know, yeah.
saying that in that example that you gave, where we have a person who has all the qualifications to be a pastor, and someone is saying, oh, you meet all the qualifications to be a pastor, but you're a woman.
So that she doesn't meet all the qualifications, does she? And I think I'm specifically talking about what the guy was talking about in the video, which is like being a senior pastor, right? So like go ahead, pastor, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, I feel like there should be a man at the head. That makes sense to me. You look like either I like said something or you're like not feeling it.
No, yeah, no, you're right. I'm just thinking,
Kayla, do you want to be a pastor?
oh,
I was reading the YouTube comments and this girl was like, yeah, I just want to be a pastor. And I was like, it's so interesting. I don't know this girl, obviously, but I know that like one of the things I always think about is like, aren't we not supposed to want to be pastors and stuff?
we're not supposed to want to be teachers or anything like that. But I do want to teach. I just
Do
don't.
you want to teach or do you feel led to teach?
I want to teach both
Great.
for
Fair.
me.
See, I feel led to teach, but I don't want to. Like I'm very like terrified of
Yeah, that's how I feel about prophetic. I feel led to do it, but I don't necessarily like want to, but we're working on that.
it. Yeah. Kayla, you trying to be a first lady?
That's
Just
him.
imagine the hats. You didn't have to roll your eyes that hard. It was I saw
Oh,
them and
I'd
I just
rather
saw
actually like do anything else. Like actually. Like I'd rather the church be mine than be a first lady. Like I'm not gonna like if God really wants that for me, I'll suck it up and live with
I
it.
feel like you'd be a really chill first lady.
Really?
Yeah. Like
Like
chill as
chill
in
how?
like I think people would
Like
like you.
I'd be wearing jeans. Oh,
I mean, you probably would be wearing jeans. I
I
could see
probably
a
would.
lot of
Don't
outreach,
like jeans. I might wear
a lot of
leggings.
kids ministry, a lot of outreach. I could see that for you.
Mm. You know what I see for you?
Oh, please.
Ready?
No.
Low key though, I see you as the worship leader. Like,
Ooh, I
and
would
then
have preferred first lady.
your husband's
Nope.
pastor, and like you're the worship leader.
Oh my gosh. Wild.
I don't see you the first lady.
But I
But
want to wear a big hat.
if you were the first lady, they better watch out.
No, literally. It would not be fun for anyone but me. It'd probably
That's
feel like
to make it
Cruella
fun
de
for
Vil to other
herself.
people. I'd show up in the big hat. Yes.
Speaking of which, so I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to
Oh, okay.
because it's funny and
Give
it's
us tea.
loosely related. And anyway, so I started talking to this guy and he's a deacon. He was just became a deacon in his church.
I'm sorry, sis, when did this happen? What?
And
What?
I'm not really talking to him. It's just we just kind of like text every now and then.
What?
And
Since when?
since like a couple weeks ago. And
How dare you?
wait. Not a couple weeks, maybe just a week. I don't know. But it's not like he's not
Where'd you
it's not
meet him?
some app that I was on a while ago. Yeah, so we were like texting every now and then it's like, yeah, I just got promoted deacon. I was like, time to go.
Man,
Like,
that's this. Get rid of him.
guys,
Ghosted.
I'm so terrified that God's just gonna like pull out the irony out of his back pocket. Like,
He do be loving to do that though.
he do. That's why I'm like, no. Anyway, I just I fear that for myself. I mean, I know I'll be fine regardless. It's just
You be
stressful
thinking that.
to
You
think
be
about.
thinking the Lord is so funny. You be like, I feel like he's gonna give me back kids. I feel like you, Kayla.
'Cause Jesus is ironic, okay? Y'all don't be knowing, but he be testing me. I'm like, all right. Anyway, I just thought that was funny.
I was just thinking that because I feel like low key, I was thinking like mom would be so sad if she heard me say that like I wouldn't mind being first lady because I think I would be fine. Like having seen everything, like I'm not saying it would be fun or easy, but
I would be fine if the way that I've experienced KRC was different.
I think that all I've realized is that it's super conditional. Like it has a lot to do with the people who are in the situation and less to do with the situation itself.
I agree, but I also think that the way I handle things is often based on how I know things could be.
Mm,
So I feel like because I act on that type of thing, like I would just be setting myself up to like fail
mm.
because I'm expecting it to look a certain way, you know?
Yeah.
But I hope that I would be good at it. I hope you do become a first lady. I feel like you'd be really good at it. I see a worship leader for you. Like, and then the husband who's like a crazy preacher. Not
It's
crazy in a
giving
bad way.
like the Greenleaf vibes. And you know what? I'm not mad at it.
Really? Wait.
I don't know. It just made me think of Charity. I love Charity. She's the best character.
I was not vibing with Charity.
They did her so dirty.
She was annoying.
I mean, yes, but everybody else was
She was
really
like the
annoying.
baby who like wants to stay a baby. Like it was so sad.
That's because nobody ever made her grow up. That's not her fault. And then she had to grow up mad fast because her husband left her. It was wild.
But it's like even churches like that have like multiple pastors and stuff.
Mhm.
They let women like be pastors.
Well, in a church like Greenleaf, the board was running the church or whatever. So high key, it don't matter who the pastor is because who's on the board.
True.
I just feel like there's so many different like veins you can work in within an area. Like you can be a pastor, but you can like you can be really like good in the logistical area and less on the preaching side, you know? Or like opposite. Or maybe you're really good at caring for people, but you're not super great with like administrative or speaking things. Like there's so many facets to it that I just feel like it's weird to put things in a box or say that there's one way of doing things.
Yeah, it's true.
Range is important.
Yeah, I agree. Isn't it interesting how like Chosen portrays? Oh wait, you're not caught up. Well,
I was gonna say I'm not at all caught up, but I
I'm
did.
interested in how Chosen portrays like the male disciples and the female disciples because there's not much about the female disciples in the Bible other than that they're there. But like, I just think it's interesting that like the 12 obviously are like the main ones and they go out and do all the things and the women are like tasked with doing the womanly things. Anyway, I think it's an interesting portrayal of like what they would do. Like they still like they're learning to read, they're learning to write, like all the things that the guys are doing. I'm interested to see like what they do with that once like they get into after Jesus's resurrection or whatever, like how that looks.
I will say in the so I'm not caught up, but I did watch the one episode about Tamar and Mary and like the olive thing. And I was like slamming people for wanting representation in the Bible, but seeing a black person in Chosen made me kind of happy. Anyway, um like I feel like that was so cool and like I love like the details that they added and all that.
But
Um
her character is just so like
it very much gives racism sometimes, but
she,
that's okay.
I
Um,
cringe. Uh,
yeah, it definitely gives stereotypes of loud black women, but that's okay because representation. But I did appreciate the shoot, where was I going with that? Oh, I appreciated the fact that like even though they are doing like a lot of work and stuff, they still I don't know, I just appreciate Tamar's character. Like when they first meet her and she's just like out screaming about stuff like Jesus is real. Everybody gotta go see him. And they're like, can you shut up, please? And she's like, nah. Like, I don't know. I appreciated that. And I like that representation of like,
the passion.
yeah,
Yeah, for real.
it's so interesting, especially because they're showing the like different styles, you know, like because you have Mary who's all like traditional and stuff, and Tamar who's all like out there, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I think when we're talking about like women's place in ministry, we always think they have to be somewhere in the background. But like in the Bible, that's not necessarily true all the time because we had judges who were women, had queens that kind of let's push women to the background. Like I get it, I guess, like being cautious about, being obedient and everything, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But
I honestly feel like it comes down to Jesus first. Like I feel like if you're humble and you have a servant's attitude about it, then it really shouldn't matter what office you take. And like it's fair to want to be like equal to other people, but at the end of the day, I feel like you have to just say like God's will be done and like I'm gonna do what I know to do anyway. And I feel like in most cases, women find that they're able to achieve the things that God has for them, doing what they are able to do in that space or finding another space that makes them able to do that. So I don't know. That wasn't where I was going with that point. That wasn't
yeah,
where it started in my head, but that's where it ended up.
yeah, I feel very blessed to have grown up in a place where I never felt like I couldn't do anything being a woman. And I
Yeah,
don't think God wants us to feel that way.
definitely.
Because we're women, we can't do things or we're beneath men or whatever. I don't think He wants us to feel like that.
Yeah, like it's all good and cool to look for like representations of women in the Bible, but at the end of the day, you do what God tells you to do. And like, of course, you should try and be obedient and, do what you know to do, but you also can't base your whole life off of like women in the Bible because there's only a select few that we get even enough details to do that. So at the end of the day, you have to be your own woman. Like you have to be unique and you might end up in the spotlight that way. You might end up somewhere you didn't expect to be.
Then support all women.
I mean, not all of them, but I will never support
Sorry.
all of anything.
I said that as a joke.
I know.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think it's interesting. In the video, the guy was like, people always want to point to what's going on in the culture to talk about the fact that women can be like raised up, but you shouldn't use culture to justify like the Lord's work. And I thought that was super interesting because I went to this visionary woman thing at the beginning of the year. This woman does these classes, and she was talking about like similar to Tori Roberts' one thing, like a year of the woman. And she pointed to a lot of examples of the Lord raising up women in culture. And so I thought it was really interesting when the guy was like, yeah, don't look to culture for examples, because I feel like God doesn't do anything in a vacuum. So it makes sense to that there would be some like parallels between what he's doing in his kingdom and what is going on outside in the world. Like obviously we shouldn't look for like signs and stuff and base our experiences off of signs, but if you look out and you see like this is how where I feel I'm being led, and I also see this going on. Like you're supposed to see those things. You're supposed to see natural things with spiritual eyes. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm not disagreeing with him. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I kind of took it as like, don't let the world influence what the Bible said. But yeah, that's an interesting take.
There are a lot of women like getting up and doing stuff, and there are men in the world who are like, yeah, no. But I feel
Yeah.
like those men are making different points than, well, they should be making different points than the men in the church who have something to say about it.
I mean, I think it's okay to look around us. I think it's just important that we remember to filter what we see through the Bible.
Yeah.
And not enough people do that, which is why he had to make it point.
Very true.
So
Well, I feel like we should do final thoughts, Loki.
oh, I thought that was final thought. I was
Oh,
really
it's
I
funny how
mean,
you can just think something happened when neither of us said
you're so
that
right.
that thing was happening. Um,
I mean, we can record it formally, and that's okay.
okay, let's do it. What are your final thoughts, Kayla?
I think that the theme of this conversation was everything points back to Jesus, and that's who should be our priority, not, one gender over another or one person over another, but everything should be pointing back to Jesus. Honestly, the way the system is set up, if everyone pointed to Jesus, no one would have any complaints.
Mm.
Like, no matter like who you're under, no matter who you're over, like if everyone's pointing to Jesus, you don't even notice. So like if you have a problem where you're at, get in a community that points to Jesus and that treats you the way Jesus would treat you. Period.
Don't think too hard on it.
Right.
Just do what you're supposed to do. Like,
Do
don't try to solve all the world's issues.
right.
Just solve your own. Because I feel like a lot of people talking about this, it doesn't actually like affect them. Like, you don't want to be a pastor. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't
me neither.
I I do want to work at a church full time though. Like I'd want to be in ministry full time.
I'd want to be in ministry, but I don't know if I'd want to be in a church. Like if I had a like Christ-centered community center, I could do that
Yeah, it doesn't have to
full
be in a
time.
church. I mean, like I want to do ministry full time. I
Yeah.
wish I could do that like right now and drop out of school. Does it
How
sound,
poor you would be.
huh? How poor?
How poor you would be. Not your spirit, but just like your wallet.
I'm poor in spirit and wallet.
I'm
So
joking. I just want to say also at the end of the day, like no matter what we think is fair or is not fair, God is just and righteous and he gets to decide what's fair.
thank you for saying that.
No problem. All right.
Okay, are we
Good
done?
night. Yes, we can be done.
Good night.
Good night.
I have more tea to spill. Okay.